So here is another video about the different combination of dies. This is a combination that I haven't used before, so I don't know what profile I'm going to get from this. I'm using 2 flame dies and then this just as a spacer on the outside. So I'm not going to use this one. And then I put the radius on the top. So it's just going to give a round profile, but I can control the depth a little more than if I'm using a male and female of this. It forms it after the male die here, but if I had a female die to this one too and don't crank it down so much, it will be a V shape, but now it's still round, so that's another combination. See if I can go a little deeper down there now and see what that's going to give. Here I can't go in the same here, I need to stop there because I had this zigzag pattern. But there you see it's much deeper. So let me go one more time. So there is much deeper profile than I can do with a male and female of that die. But you must remember that you get the distortion here. So it starts curving this way now. If I want to correct that, I can take a flat die on the bottom here and still this one on the top and run it back and forth and stretch it in the bottom there in the bead roller. That will stretch this out on the top here and it will make it more straight. So you can actually control that when you go back and forth with a little more pressure here. And you can see when they start getting more flat. So I'm using the bead roller to stretch stuff too with. So let's change dies to something else. So here's the same dies as I had before, but I moved the shaft out. So now I'm going to use it together with the flat die on the bottom and use this flame dies as a guide. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it like this. And lift my hands up a little there to bend this almost 90 degrees and have a radius on the edge. So this is what I'm using as a guide now. If you have too low pressure between, it will try to slide out. And always watch the side that goes in so it's touching the guide. Never stand on this side and feeding it out from the machine. Always stand on the side where you're feeding it in. You can stand on this side, but then you must feed it to the right instead. So it's what's most comfortable for you. So you see here now that I bent this, so it has a radius and it's almost 90 degrees now. If I want this to be straight, I need to go and shrink this a little bit. And I can do that and then I can probably smooth it out in the dies again. So let me go over to the shrinker now and shrink this so it's straight. It's curved because it's cut in a radius. And when I bend it, it's still too long. So that's why it's curved like that. So I'm using the small shrinker here now. And it's actually so nice still on the radius. I don't think I need to bend that again in the bead roller. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bend this out in a curve instead and flare that out. And so you can see how that looks like too. So here I'm using the same die combination and I can follow that in a curve with this flame die as a guide because I can't use the red one here because it's so long and straight. So little by little, and stay the same angle all the time, and next time I run it, you lift it up a little more. So now we have a radius on the inside there, but you see it's curved. So here I need to go and stretch it actually to make that straight again. Or depends on what shape I want to it. I can stretch it more and I can shrink it too. Sometimes after I have done that, depends on how much it is, I need to go and clean it up with the dies again. So here I changed the die on the bottom here to the female die and using the same on the top. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to hold this about 45 degrees and crank this down, and you can see what's happened there now. Crank it down all the way so it's get a little resistant there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to lift this up. And you need to be aware of how you're holding it on the side that goes in here now, okay? So now you see that we have more a round profile. But what happened here is that now it curves a little more here. So that tells me that I need to over shrink this, not so it's straight, so it has a little more curve this way. And then when I run it as I did, it will stretch it out and it will be straight. So it's a little trial and error there. So let me go over to the shrinker and the stretcher and work on that. So what I'm going to do here, even if I have the round profile here, I can destroy that and I can shrink that part there. And then I'm shrinking this so it's little curve there. So you see now this is much more here, and I want that to be more even after I have done the rounding. So let's run this again and then see what happened with it. So you see now this is more straight, but I still have a little curve there. So it's just to do some experiment and see where it goes. Play with a piece before you do the final piece that you're going to make for the car. It's so much easier to do 2 or 3 test pieces. So that is one combination, so let me change to something else. So I'm back here again and I'm using the same top die, same round profile there, but I only had using half of the bottom. And here I actually have a match. So this is the same radius. So, but I'm not sure if this is going to, depends on how much distortion this is going to give me. Sometimes it's easier to do it one time and full depth, and sometimes you must do it several steps because it's so deep. So here I do it 3 times. It's hard to follow the same track. But I'm thinking I'm pretty close there. But you see it from a flat piece there, you see the distortion on the panel. And that's what happened here when it's in the inner curve, that this bead takes material to create that. So it's actually short here where the beads is. So to fix something like that, in this case, I think I would go to the stretcher and stretch this part here and see if that relaxing the panel down. I don't think I would go in here and shrink it I think that will be much distortion if I try to do that, and I can't reach in here with a 5.5 inch. But if I'm stretching it there, it might change this so it will be a little more flat. So it's just a trial and error. I can go over there to use the stretch and see where it goes. I need to be very careful with the stretcher, and I need to be very close to the bead there. And I pay attention to the panel there now. So you can see here now that the panel is much more flat now than it was before. I have little damage from the jaws from the stretching there, but I can go in there with a hammer and dolly and just take and make that flat. Because it has a little angle to it. I'm not worried about that. I can hammer that down. But the most important thing is that you see that this surface here is much more flat now. So it actually worked. I wasn't 100% sure before I did this, but I always going to get the result. So let's do it and see what the result was. And when I did little by little, I could see that this went down. So I think that was all for the tips and tricks now for this one. And if you want more information, you can go to www.lazzemetalshaping.com. Thank you for watching.